Genesis readers, we're in chapter 5. This is the book of the generations of Adam. This word generations reads this way, reads opposite of English. It's a T sound, T-O-L-D-O-T, the Toledot, the generations. The author of Genesis uses this as a focusing literary technique. So he had earlier said, these are the generations, it is in chapter 2, these are the generations of the heavens and the earth. Now he's going to talk more specifically about these are the generations of Adam. So a bit of a focusing technique on humanity. Then he's going to focus more specifically on the line of Noah, down into the line of Shem, into the line of Terah, and from Terah comes Abraham. And the covenant, and with Abraham comes God's covenant with his people. So what the author of Genesis is doing is saying, hey, by this generations, this Toledot, is here are things that are true of all creation, the universe, humanity in general. Here are things that are true of man more specifically. But as he continues to move, he moves away from things that are true of the heavens and the earth generally, man generally, and instead what he begins to focus on, here are things that are true only of the chosen people. But we are at Adam right now. These first couple verses 1 through 2, he almost repeats things that we had heard earlier in chapters 1 and 2. God created man, the likeness of God, male and female, he created them. He blessed them, named them man, humanity, right? Same idea. And they were created. Okay, why is the author of Genesis repeating these things? We had earlier read this in just a few chapters before. Well, I think the author of Genesis is trying to say, we're going to front load blessing, because what we're going to see in the rest of chapter 5 is death. God had warned Adam and Eve that if they ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, they would die. The serpent allowed them to question that. Yeah, die? What do you mean die? You're not really going to die. Well, maybe not right away. Death in the scriptures is really two things. It's being cut off from God. That is a death, and that did happen immediately when they were kicked out of the garden. But it is also literal. So it's two things. The serpent was right. This literal one didn't happen immediately. Well, but this one did. You were cut off from God immediately. However, now what chapter 5 is showing us is that the curse is being fulfilled. Both of these things are happening. You are cut off from God and you are literally dying. However, the author does not want us to forget that sown into creation, into humanity, into our very DNA is a blessing that not even the curse can eradicate. But you can see Adam gave birth to Seth. Let's just quickly go through this. Seth died. Enosh died. Kenan died. Mahalalel died. Jared died. Now, the seventh from Adam, Enoch. 7 in biblical numbers is a number for perfection, godliness, holiness. So I don't know if Enoch was literally the 7th from Adam, as Jude 14 tells us, and as we read here in chapter 5. Is he the 7th from Adam? That's not really the point. The point that the author of Genesis is trying to make is that there had been a great fall, and people are now paying a heavy price for the mistakes they had made. Enoch began to reverse the fall. How did that happen? How did godliness, the 7th, a perfection, a way back into Eden, how did that begin to happen? Enoch walked with God. Thus, the days of Enoch were 365 years. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. He is the only one then in this list that doesn't say he died. The author is telling us one man out of all the curse has found a way to reverse it, has found a way to get back into Eden, has found perfection again. How did that happen? Enoch walked with God. So the author of Genesis is saying there is still a way to get back to that original, primal Genesis, Eden, paradise blessing. And it's by walking with God. And we can see this wasn't a universal experience. Methuselah died. Lamech died. But we can also see, too, that Lamech gave birth to a son named Noah. Out of the ground that the Lord has cursed, this one shall bring us relief from our work and from the painful toil of our hands. The word Noah is a similar word for rest or for ease or from the relaxation from hard labor and toil. So the writer of Genesis is going to start linking then, because we go into chapter 6, right into Noah and the ark. And so we see Noah, and here the author also starts to allude to the chosen people, because eventually we will leave these two behind, and the author will take us from Noah to Shem, to Terah, and then to Abraham. But the main point in this chapter is to remember the great fall, the great ruin of God's paradise isn't actually the end of humanity. There's a way back in. Walk with God. See you soon. Take care.